Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to FudgeMuppet. It's Michael here, and today I'm going to take you through our highly requested build, the Gunslinger. Remember to leave a comment with what kind of build you want us to do next, and we'll definitely take it into consideration. We're feeling like doing a Silver Shroud build soon, but let's get into the Gunslinger. The Gunslinger is one of our favorite builds to date, and we're very happy with how it plays. This Gunslinger is of course a master with pistols and is perfect for anyone wanting a western cowboy theme and also for those desiring a lone wanderer playthrough. The Gunslinger will use heaps of sprinting in his playstyle with plenty of VATs and tons of criticals. The endgame version of this build will be able to store up enough critical hits to unleash as many critical hits as he can fit in VATs. If you're surrounded by 8 different opponents, this build can use VATs to critical hit all of them in succession. This of course needs some awesome luck and agility perk investment. This build also doesn't use hacking and lockpicking, but he will have the special stats for it, so if you want you can switch some perks around. Also for power armor, you can go for any design and type you like, but we don't think this build really needs it. Maybe you'll want it early on in the game when your resistances are lowest and you just want to clear out some areas quicker. Now it's time to get into the backstory for the Gunslinger, but before that I'd just like to remind you that we do have timestamp links in the description which will allow you to skip through certain sections or come back to a section to remember information. We've got all the guides we've made on how you can find certain things this build will need and also discussions about the perks we're using in the description too. Time to meet the Gunslinger. The Gunslinger was born in the city of Boston, but loved nothing more than leaving the city and traveling to spend time at his family farm. His mother and father would go with him when he was young, and they'd spend time here in the summer enjoying nature and getting away from the busy lifestyle of the urban area they were from. When the Gunslinger was older and could drive, he would often travel here by himself on the weekends, just so he could hang out with his cousins on their farm. One of the main activities the Gunslinger undertook here, believe it or not, was using a gun, and him and his cousins would have competitions of accuracy and speed. Stopwatches were used to record how long it took them to shoot down various targets, many of which were used bottles, Goodsprings style. Usually the boys used rifles and the Gunslinger would win about half the time. Eventually, however, he came across an old revolver, and using this pistol became a new competition event, an event the Gunslinger would always win at. His cousins put it down to luck, but clearly there was something special about the Gunslinger. His peripheral focus was amazing, and his ability to switch between targets without being even slightly disoriented was impressive to behold. The Gunslinger lived a very different life to most people where he was from, and was actually homeschooled by his parents, who weren't overly intelligent themselves. Continuing on his country trips, the Gunslinger eventually met a girl at a lodge near his cousin's place, and feeling a little tipsy, he wandered on over and said hello. He found out the girl was also from Boston, and was out in the country doing an internship for her law degree. One thing led to another and the two fell in love, but sadly had to spend time apart when the Gunslinger decided to join the military. He really wanted to make sure the ones he loved would feel safe in their own homes. During his time in service, the Gunslinger witnessed the true atrocities of war, but unlike many of his friends, he was never severely harmed. He had seen one of his favorite military buddies shot in the head right next to him, and another taken away with one unexpected step on a landmine. He had also seen the blood of many of his opponents, and he used one of his military pistols to take out groups of people. His squad mates originally thought he was crazy when he started using a pistol instead of a rifle, but as they saw, it worked for him, so they weren't exactly complaining. As time went by, the Gunslinger took shore leave and spent time with his wife who he got pregnant, but he decided to go back to the military anyway to finish his service, which had almost ended. It was after his camp was bombed by the Chinese and all had died except him that he asked to leave, and due to his admirable efforts, this was permitted. It wasn't long after settling down with his wife back in Boston, where they were both from, that the bombs began to fall. The Gunslinger and his family were rushed into Vault 111, and we all know what happens next. Now, before the motives and factions section of this build, I will warn you as usual that we'll be telling you all the factions the Gunslinger will be working with, so if you don't want to know, then skip through this part using the timestamps in the description. That said, we will be keeping the faction and big quest storylines super vague. After losing everything, the Gunslinger will enter the wasteland absolutely destroyed. Every part inside of him that desires companionship has been lost, although one fragment remains. He longs to find his son. As his search for his son begins, he quickly realizes that Boston is no longer a friendly place, and if he wants to thrive in this new environment, he's gonna have to be a bit selfish. The Gunslinger isn't going to be your cliche hero type character. He avoids the limelight, keeping his feelings and intentions to himself, and if he sees people in need of help, he's not likely to lend a hand. He doesn't like people prying about his personal information, and his general attitude is, not my problem, I need to find my son. That said, he's the kind of guy that will do random, unexpected acts of kindness, and will leave these up to you to decide. For the most part, the Gunslinger is going to be cold, efficient, and hungry to achieve his goals. He does desire to find a purpose larger than himself, and if he finds his son, he will definitely end up finding a new cause. We recommend joining the Institute, as the Gunslinger will be fulfilled emotionally and have the opportunity to take his aims further. He will want to rebuild the Commonwealth and make it a better place for humanity, but he definitely has no problem using inhumane methods to do this. He will achieve his goals at any cost and acts for the greater good on the inside, while appearing on the outside to be heartless and merciless to others. You can of course choose other factions if you like, such as the Brotherhood of Steel or the Minutemen, simply for aesthetic purposes. But like we said, the personality of the Gunslinger definitely aligns with that of the Institute, and judged by what he's wearing, no one would be able to tell where his alliance lies. The Gunslinger cartwheels into the wasteland with 1 strength, 1 perception, 2 endurance, 3 charisma, 3 intelligence, 8 agility, and 10 luck. Having 1 strength and low carry capacity is going to be countered by the Lone Wanderer perk and represents his lack of physical power. 1 perception is chosen as he isn't the best at long range shooting, and also allows us to start with higher luck and agility. Charisma will be 3 as he's fairly average in this manner, and endurance will be 2 as he's never been super fit. He has, however, always been incredibly reactive and agile, hence 8 agility, and we're going to be using the special book you get in Sanctuary on agility to make it 9, and then the bobblehead can make it 10. The Gunslinger has 3 intelligence as he doesn't tend to learn new skills fast, and he has 10 luck as this simply hasn't disadvantaged him in any way. He's super lucky, will score critical hits all the time, and as you will have heard in the backstory, he always seems to be the lone survivor when all hell breaks loose. If you don't know where to get the special book or all the special bobbleheads, we'll link our guides we made on where to find them in the description. So let's get into the perks of the Gunslinger and why we picked them. To start off, I want to say that even though we originally planned to get the concentrated fire perk, we actually decided not to. After a large amount of playtesting, we thought it simply wasn't worth it to invest so heavily into perception for this pistol using build. Basically, you're going to want to be relatively close to your enemies so your accuracy won't be that bad, and after we invest a smaller amount of perk points into perception, you definitely don't need the accuracy bonus. In a nutshell, it's so much better investing into luck instead and making this Gunslinger an extremely frequent user of critical hits, which by the way, will always have 100% accuracy. As you will have seen in this video, accuracy isn't much of an issue if you're using critical hits so often. Anyways, I'm going to go over the perk point allocation of this build all the way up to level 50, and anything beyond this is up to you. Maybe you'll want to get concentrated fire then. Some other options you can get with the special points you have are Locksmith and Hacker if you're interested. So straight away we're going to be getting the Gunslinger perk to deal 20% more damage with pistols, and after this we're getting the amazing 4-leaf Clover perk. This gives every single hit you land in VATS a chance of filling your critical meter completely, and because pistols use less action points per shot, the Gunslinger is going to be landing a lot of hits in VATS. This means filling up your critical meter and using critical hits all the time. It also encourages you to start using the VATS pistol playstyle straight away. This build will also be using a very run and gun playstyle with these pistols, and therefore we're going to want the moving target perk to have plus 25 energy and plus 25 damage resistance while sprinting. This is of course great for protecting the Gunslinger during combat and actually incentivizes sprinting as much as possible because his resistances will be quite low if you don't. Next up, it's time to get into some dramatic western gore and blow up some limbs with the Bloody Mess perk. Besides making your playthrough a bit more fun by turning some of your enemies into a gory explosion, it will grant you 5% more damage, which always helps. At level 6, we get an interesting perk called Ricochet, and you need luck 10 for this perk. Ricochet can make an enemy's ranged attack bounce back and instantly kill them. The closer you are to death, the higher chance there is for this to occur, but Scott and I don't recommend staying close to death to try to get this to happen. Ricochet will definitely not happen super often, but when it does happen, it's really cool. Remember, it's an instant kill, and it really brings some more Western shootout vibes to the Gunslinger. By picking this perk early, you'll also be able to have heaps of game time to experience it. At level 7, we're getting the second rank of Gunslinger to do 40% more damage with pistols and have increased range, and at level 8 we're going to be getting an awesome perk called Scrounger. This simply makes you find more ammo around the wasteland, which will save you having to buy ammo for your pistol, and it's also a great way to make caps. Collect as much ammo as you can because it's weightless and sell it to vendors to grow your dosh. It's also a nice perk to pick early on to start collecting more ammo as opposed to say a resistance based perk like toughness, because currently at level 8 the game isn't really that challenging. Following this, we're getting the second rank of Bloody Mess to cause 10% more damage with anything and everything, and then we're going to be getting an awesome perk called Critical Banker. This starts adding multiple critical hits into your playstyle as it lets you store an additional critical hit to use. So at the first rank, you'll now be able to save 1 critical hit on top of your normal critical meter, giving you 2 critical hits to use. Next up, we're getting a perk which is useful, but we mainly chose for role-playing a Gunslinger character, and it's called Quick Hands. We're only getting the first rank of this, and this gives you the real Western quick draw feel, helping you churn out more bullets with faster reload times. After this, we get the Lone Wanderer perk, which makes you take 15% less damage and increases your carry weight by 50 while you're not using any companions. So this character won't be using companions for the majority of his playthrough, and this resistance you'll get will be helpful now as you gradually start to discover tougher enemies. Following this, we're getting the second rank of 4-Leaf Clover to give every one of our hits in VATS an even better chance of filling our critical meter. This works great with Critical Banker, and we can store up these critical hits, which we'll end up getting quite often. Following this, we're buffing our sprinting VATS playstyle with the Action Boy perk. At the first rank, the Gunslinger's action points will regenerate 25% faster than before. Next up, the Gunslinger will get Gunslinger rank 3 to deal 60% more damage with pistols and have our range with pistols increased even more, and after that we're investing in the first rank of Toughness. This will give us a permanent extra plus 10 damage resistance, and after this we're going to pick up the second rank of Lone Wanderer to take 30% less damage and have our carry weight increased by 100 when adventuring without a companion. By now, the Gunslinger will be taking way less damage, which makes up for his current lack of endurance. At level 18, the Gunslinger invests in the Better Criticals perk, and as the name suggests, this is going to give us better criticals. To be precise, they'll be better by 50%, in terms of damage of course. It's a great idea to start buffing up our critical hits at this point to take out some of the harder enemies you'll find in Fallout 4. This will help with any enemies you find who have a skull next to their name. At level 19, we get the next rank of Critical Banker to start storing up more of these critical hits, and at level 20, we're going to get the second rank of Better Criticals to deal double damage with these critical hits. Now the Gunslinger has become so much stronger as a whole, and will be able to dish out very powerful critical hits, especially for a level 20 character. Next up, we're getting the second rank of Action Boy to help even more with increased VATS usage and constantly sprinting. At this final rank of Action Boy, your action points will regenerate 50% faster, and this is extremely helpful for firing off more bullets in VATS and as a result getting more critical hits to use. Following this, we're going to start investing in endurance and beefing up this character a bit more in general. Endurance is of course more useful the higher level you are, and we'll make a video about this eventually. After you've used a perk point to increase your endurance, you're going to want to get the second rank of Toughness to have plus 20 damage resistance, and then the Gunslinger will get the second rank of Moving Target. This will give him a massive plus 50 damage resistance and plus 50 energy resistance while sprinting. Again, this is great for adding some resistance to the build's playstyle. At level 25, we invest in the third rank of Toughness to give the Gunslinger plus 30 damage resistance, and now he's definitely not as frail as he used to be. At level 26, we're getting the second rank of Scrounger to find even more ammunition for our pistol, and straight after this we get the fourth rank of Gunslinger to deal 80% more damage with this pistol, and now we'll also have a chance to disarm our opponents with our bullets. Following this, we put a perk point into Perception to increase our VATS accuracy a little, and then we get the second rank of Ricochet, again maximizing the time we spend with this super fun perk. At this rank, there's an even bigger chance that an enemy shot will ricochet back and kill them instantly. At level 30, we're going to be investing another perk point into Perception to again increase our VATS accuracy, which will of course help with our VATS intensive playstyle. At level 31, we're going to be getting the 3rd rank of Bloody Mess to deal 15% more damage, and then we're getting the 3rd rank of 4-Leaf Clover to enhance our critical hit playstyle and let us use critical hits left, right, and center. Now each hit you land in VATS has a very good chance of filling your critical meter. After this, we're going to be getting the 4th rank of Toughness to have plus 40 damage resistance as the Gunslinger starts to enter more dangerous areas of the map, and then we're going to want to find the Agility Bobblehead to gain access to Gun Fu. You've now learned to apply ancient martial arts to gunplay. You'll deal 25% more damage to your second VATS target and beyond. We find this to be really fun and also change up the playstyle quite a bit. Now it will be very useful to target multiple targets in front of you or all around you in VATS. Combine this with the later ranks of Gun Fu and Critical Banker, and you can unleash an insane amount of critical hits. I'll explain this soon. After the 1st rank of Gun Fu, we actually get the 2nd rank of Gun Fu, and now you'll deal 50% more damage to your 3rd VATS target and beyond. We decided not to get this earlier as it is very situational, and you really want to have Critical Banker and be a higher level to get the most out of it. Over the next 2 levels, we invest our perk points into Endurance for even more health to deal with high level areas of the game, and at level 38 and 39, we invest in the 3rd and 4th ranks of Scrounger. Now we'll be able to find a ridiculous amount of ammo throughout the wasteland, and remember, most of this will be sold to vendors as a great way of making caps. You'll also never run out of ammo for your pistol or need to buy any. Now at level 40, the Gunslinger will get Lone Wanderer rank 3, and this is another sensational rank. When you're not using a companion, you'll not only take 30% less damage and have 100 more carry weight, but you'll deal 25% more damage. Combined with Bloody Mess, this makes us deal 40% more damage, and that doesn't even include the Gunslinger perks. Next up, it's time to get the 3rd rank of Better Criticals, which will make our critical hits do 2.5 times as much extra damage, and then we're going to get the 5th and final rank of Gunslinger to do 100% more damage with our pistols, and also have a much better chance to disarm our opponents. At level 43, we're getting the 3rd rank of Critical Banker, and now we're able to store another critical hit. Also, banking a critical now has a chance to save an additional critical hit. Including your critical meter, you can save up to 4 critical hits to unleash on multiple enemies, or just the one pain of an enemy that just won't die. We're then going to get the 3rd rank of Moving Target, and with this rank, sprinting costs 50% fewer action points. This works fantastically with this Gunslinger build, as we'll be able to sprint around shooting people with our pistol non-stop. We're then throwing a perk point into Perception to increase our accuracy a little more, and then we're getting the 5th rank of Toughness to have plus 50 damage resistance. After this, we'll be getting the 4th rank of Bloody Mess, and this is effective and plays into the whole over-the-top violent western theme that this build has. Basically, with this rank, when you shoot an enemy and they explode into a gory mess, nearby enemies may suffer the same fate. It's a bit silly, but from personal experience, it doesn't feel as ridiculous as it sounds. You've got to have some wacky stuff happen in a FudgeMuppet Gunslinger playthrough. 4-Leaf Clover rank 4 is the next choice for the Gunslinger, and this will give you an excellent chance of filling your critical meter with every hit you land in VATS, and then at level 49 you're actually going to save your perk point so we can choose 2 perks at level 50. So finally then at level 50, we're picking the 3rd rank of Gun Fu and the 3rd rank of Ricochet. With the Gun Fu perk, you'll now instantly do a critical hit against your 4th target and beyond. Combine this with Critical Banker and you can unleash critical hits non-stop against a massive amount of targets. Simply use saved critical hits for the first few targets, and then the rest will automatically become critical, which also means you'll have 100% accuracy using this method. Finally, the Ricochet perk helps this by giving you a chance to fill your critical meter when an enemy shot ricochets back and kills them. The endgame special stats for the Gunslinger, not including gear, but including all the bobbleheads you'll want to find, are going to be 2 strength, 5 perception, 6 endurance, 4 charisma, 4 intelligence, 10 agility, and 11 luck. Looking at the gear for the Gunslinger, it actually won't be explained in as much detail as our other builds. This is because the gear we're using is extremely straightforward. For example, in terms of clothing, you're going to want to use the Drifter's outfit, the red bandana, and the militia hat. There you go. The Drifter's outfit has some basic low resistances, and the hat will grant you an additional point of charisma, which is helpful for bartering. You can get all of this extremely early just on bodies found in the wasteland, and you'll be using this for the entire game. We've obviously chosen this purely for the full-on cowboy gunslinger aesthetic, and if you want, you could invest in the armor perk and get the ballistic weave modification, but that's not what we recommend. If you want to know how to unlock this modification for clothing, we've got a video about it linked in the description. In terms of weapons, you can actually get your main gun early on too, and it's called Kellogg's pistol. This is acquired during the main storyline, and until you get this, you can just use whatever pistol you can find. Kellogg's pistol uses 44 ammo, and it's a legendary weapon which restores all your action points every time you use a critical hit. This is excellent for increasing the VATS usage of this build and continuing to rack up even more critical hits, which will in turn again restore your action points. It's a marvelous cycle. Now, this build obviously doesn't have gun nut to upgrade the pistol we're using, but you can just gradually find 44 Magnum revolvers with the mods you want and swap them around. When it comes to companion choices of the Gunslinger, you shouldn't really be using any. This character is a very lone wanderer kind of guy, but as always, we like to give you options with our builds. So if you were playing this build as a completionist character, maybe you want to temporarily get McCready to max his affinity and get the perk called Kill Shot. This will give you a 20% greater chance to hit an enemy's head in VATS. However, for many people this is bugged, and it will actually make your headshot accuracy 95% from any distance with any ranged weapon. Another companion you could temporarily have is Kate to get the Trigger Rush perk, and this will make your action points regenerate 25% faster if your HP falls below 25%. You will want to avoid getting so low on health though, and like I said, we recommend no companions at all, but there's easily a way to rationalize it if you want to quickly max their affinity and get their perks. When it comes to settlements, the Gunslinger couldn't care less about having big supply lines and making lots of settlers happy. All he needs is a bed and some shelter as he tries to search for his son. Of course, settlements are not necessary at all for this build, but if you do want them, try making some western looking ones spread out around the map. No matter where you are in the Commonwealth, it's nice to have food and a roof in the region. We don't recommend doing anything fancy, but as always, the choice is yours. Perhaps your Gunslinger just makes his home at his faction's base. And that finishes off this week's Fallout 4 build, the Gunslinger. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe to FudgeMuppet so you don't miss out on any more awesome Fallout 4 builds. Remember, we've put our social media links in the description if you're interested, and also the links to all the guides we've made on how you can obtain certain things that the Gunslinger will need. Please share this video if you have any friends looking for a Gunslinger build, and do like the video if you enjoyed it. My name is Michael, this was the Gunslinger, and subscribe so I can nerd out with you all again very soon.